We're four friends with hot takes on food media.
And we're here to review and recap all kinds of food shows in bite-sized seasons.
Plus, virtual potlucks, cooking adventures, and food memes.
Welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
Hey everyone, it's Justine. I am here with another bonus episode for you. Surprise! So we hosted another Reddit talk on r/food. Well, it was just me this time representing the pod. This was on Monday, February 28th, 2022. And the topic was sushi. And we had two guests, Chef Seizi Imura from Cafe Sushi and Jacqueline Schell, aka Crafty Cookbook on Instagram. Before we get to the talk, let me tell you all about our esteemed guests. Chef Seizi Imura learned sushi at his parents' restaurant, Cafe Sushi in Cambridge, Massachusetts. But his dreams led him to the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, where he studied illustration and fine art while working at the award-winning Sushi Ron in Sausalito. After graduating from art school, Seizi worked full-time at Sushi Ron under Mitsunori Kusakabe, who taught him how to infuse his passion for the visual arts into the culinary ones. It was a transformative experience. Under Kusakabe, Sushi Ron earned a Michelin star in 2006 and 2007. Seizi, inspired, made the decision to return to Boston to take over his parents' restaurant. At Cafe Sushi, Seizi turned the neighborhood dollar sushi joint into one of Boston's area's finest sushi experience. Seizi is also a James Beard Award semifinalist. Our other guest was friend of the pods, Jacqueline Schell. She shares recipes for home cooking and guides for homemade sushi on her Instagram page at Crafty Cookbook. Now, here's the talk. Jacqueline, you down for some pre-show vamping?
For sure.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Are you in the west coast of the United States as well as me?
I am, yeah. I am out. I'm in Torrance, California, which is like a suburb of Los Angeles.
Excellent. So it's a lovely 9:30 a.m. on a Monday morning for you as well.
It is. But it's a good day. I'm going to be making some sushi tonight. I went out and got some supplies yesterday, so I'm excited for that. I just got a new little deep fryer for my kitchen, and I got it set up this weekend, and so I'm going to attempt to make a deep fried sushi roll this week. I'm not sure if it's going to come out or not, but I'm excited to try it. And so I got some stuff to look forward to today.
That sounds amazing. How do you I'm already like, tell me more. What's in it? How are we doing it? Are you sharing pictures?
Yeah, so I will definitely be posting the process to my Instagram story, for better or worse, even if it's a disaster. I'm going to be doing a fried Philadelphia roll, I think. Those are like some of my favorite fried rolls. So that's just salmon, avocado, and a little bit of cream cheese. That's like my favorite fried roll to order. So I was like, okay, the first one I make definitely has to be that. And I'm trying to kind of eliminate some of the things that could go wrong. So I went ahead and just purchased pre-made tempura batter mix. So it's like similar to like buying pancake mix. You just add water. So that's what I'm going to try to use. We'll see how it goes.
Excellent.
It looks like we got everybody now.
We finally have you here. So
I
excited.
apologize. It's good to be here.
No worries. We can officially get started now. Hi, I'm Justine. I'm a host of the podcast Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes, a podcast where we review and recap all kinds of food shows. And you can find us on all your favorite podcatchers or podappetitpodcast.com. Today, our guests here in the Sushi Reddit talk are James Beard Award semifinalist chef Seizi Imura of Cafe Sushi in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Jacqueline Schell, who shares amazing DIY guides for homemade sushi through her Instagram page at Crafty Cookbook. And they are experts on all things sushi and they're going to answer your questions today. So here, you're going to raise your hand if you have a question. I'm going to invite you onto the stage. You're going to unmute yourself and ask your question. And Jacqueline, Seizi, are you guys ready to go?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I've invited MW Productions to the stage to speak. But while we wait for that person to accept, oh wait, here we are. How you doing? Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
So when you get on the stage,
Hey, there we go. Had to do the refresh thing. Okay. Well, hello. Thanks for doing this talk. I'm definitely very excited to hear what you have to say. I know one of the biggest questions that I see come up, and I've never gotten a really solid answer on this for the home sushi chef. How do I find fish that I know is going to be sushi safe in a place where I don't live by the ocean?
Yes. Okay. So excellent question. This is definitely one of the biggest barriers for people when you're trying to make sushi at home, is not only finding the right fish, but knowing what the right stuff is to buy. So it's kind of a rabbit hole, and I will try to kind of give you the overview answer and not go too deep. So there's a lot of talk around like sushi grade and that term. And when you get into it, you'll hear people say, okay, well, sushi grade, that's not a real term. It's not a federally regulated term, which is true. So any seller can basically call whatever they want sushi grade, and that's not going to be against any laws in the United States, for example. However, it is typically a good indication. So for most places, they're not trying to make you sick. They're not going to try to sell you something that's going to harm you. And so if they're putting sushi grade on the label, you can basically trust that that institution, like that grocery store, believes that that fish is going to be safe to eat. So that's the easiest route to go. If you can find a Japanese grocery store or any other Asian grocery store, usually they will have some fish that they're selling that's marked for sushi, intended for sushi and sashimi. And that's going to be the easiest to use. And so it's also going to be, in most cases, higher quality fish in terms of taste and texture than if you just go to the grocery store and you pick up, any piece of salmon. So if you're having trouble finding something like that, the other thing you can do is most fish that has been frozen is going to be safe to eat raw. And so the main risk that sushi fish carries is parasites. And these parasites are killed if the fish is frozen for a sufficient length of time. And most commercial fish is frozen these days. So as long as you can confirm that the fish you're buying has been frozen, it should be safe to eat raw. But I would definitely encourage you to try to seek out the fish intended for sushi first, because that's going to definitely be higher quality for your actual final product.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great answer, and that's exactly right. The one thing that I would recommend is maybe also going to your favorite and trusted sushi restaurant and sort of asking the chefs there what they would recommend and where they would recommend buying fish. As just on a retail level, there might be some places that sell good quality fish that they are aware of, or get their product ingredients from a similar vendor purveyor that they're buying from, and that might be available to the public just via retail. So that could be a good route as well.
Those are definitely very helpful. Quick corollary to that. So if I'm buying frozen fish, how do I want to get it to, how do I want to thaw it safely? What's the appropriate way to do that?
So definitely thaw it in the refrigerator if you can. So just try to transfer it from your freezer to your refrigerator a day or so ahead of when you're going to make it. If it's a really large chunk of fish and you only want to defrost a portion of it, definitely piece it apart and only defrost a section. So you can use, it's kind of butchery, but you can use a serrated knife to cut through a large frozen piece of fish if you want to only defrost a section. What you don't want to do is defrost the whole thing and then refreeze portions of it. That's not going to be good for food safety. If you're really in a rush, you can place it under running water that is cold, but you just want to be very careful that you don't get the fish too warm. You don't really want it to reach room temperature when you're defrosting.
Absolutely, I agree. And just I would add, if you wanted to use something same day and you're going to use all of it, what you can do, if it's vacuum sealed, two things. If it's vacuum sealed and you're going to use all of it, but you don't need it that day and you can have a slow defrost, you should puncture the vacuum seal to allow for any, hidden bacteria to be released, and sort of wrap that package so it stays as fresh as possible, and maybe set it on a sheet pan with napkins underneath just in case it starts to defrost and there's liquid that's released. And then also anything that you buy same day that you're going to use that you can use all of, you can take it out of the package, put it in a Ziploc bag so it doesn't get wet with all of the water that you're defrosting with, and allow it to defrost in running cold water. And you can do your best by getting all of the rest of the air out so that the Ziploc is fully suctioned to the piece of fish, and allow it to defrost like that.
Great, very useful answers. I appreciate it.
Thank you
Absolutely.
for your question. I have a question from the comment from I Use Pixel. What are the best sushi recipes to make for beginners?
So there's a lot of options out there. The simpler rolls are definitely the easier things to start with. So something like a California roll is a really great place to start because the ingredients are pretty cheap. You're most of the cases using imitation crab stick, which most people can probably find that at their just regular grocery store. You probably don't even need to go to any specialty grocery stores for that. So that's a really great one for practicing. And then just anything simple like a salmon avocado roll, tuna avocado, all of that stuff is really the best kind of place to start. I will say, like, once you get into making things like spicy tuna and things like that, those can be a little bit more difficult for rolling. And so maybe you definitely can do that on a first batch, but just know that it's going to be a little bit more difficult to roll a roll that has soft and loose fillings like that compared to something like a California roll.
Yeah, I would say you can start off with just veggies, something that you have in the house. Get all the proper tools like a makisu, which is a bamboo roller. The trick is roll it or wrap it up in saran wrap so it doesn't stick on the roller, and then cook some rice. And oftentimes you can find in an Asian specialty store some sushi vinegar that you can just mix into the rice, and just start out slow and just make some simple rolls with rice on the inside or even rice on the outside, whatever your preference is, and just go with that and just get creative, and then work your way towards, sourcing fish that you want to use. Jacqueline's right. If once you start adding sauces and such, it gets a little bit complicated and messy. So you might want to start out simple and just dip into soy sauce. But I think that's a great start.
Love it. Floofy, if you could unmute and ask your question.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm kind of getting sick right here.
You're doing fine. What's your question?
Well, it's kind of two short questions, if that's okay with you lot.
Yeah, go ahead.
First question is it possible to make sushi without fish if you don't like fish?
Definitely.
Thank you very much. And the second question is, can Schnitzel be used as an ingredient in sushi?
That's a great question. I think that anything really can be used as an ingredient in sushi, especially, if you're just making it at home. It's your house, it's your rules. So whatever sounds good to you, absolutely try it and see how it is.
So theoretically, I could just grab a bunch of chicken McNuggies, half an orange, and a fish head and slap it on some rice.
You could, if you wanted to, yeah.
Definitely do that. That's gonna be on my menu next week. So thanks for the the inspiration. But seriously, sushi is really all about the rice, really. So you can do anything to it: vegetables, schnitzel, chicken
Thank
nuggets.
you very much. Thank you very much, Seizi One, Yellow Jacket Wasp, mixtape from the 90s, and The Sun is a Deadly Laser. Okay, goodbye.
Thank you for your question. And if you're tuning in here now, you can raise your hand if you want to ask a question. Raise your hand and then you'll be invited onto the stage. Now I've got a question for Chef Imura. You took over Cafe Sushi from your parents in 2007. What was it like to run the family business?
Well, lie to you, it's a challenge. You know, it was a big challenge. I mean, coming back home to Boston, I was in the Bay Area with my now wife, and we moved back to take over the restaurant. And it was a very different restaurant back then. So, and there's a huge learning curve because I went from, you know, just being a chef and having some responsibilities to having a whole lot of responsibilities, and then also moving back to a different city and trying to understand the lay of the land there. So, you know, there was a lot to learn. And Boston was a growing food community, so it was nice to be a part of that. And I think luckily it was a very welcoming one. And, you know, I probably wouldn't be able to be doing what I'm doing now if it wasn't for the sort of community itself here that has supported us at Cafe Sushi so much. So it's been good. But yeah, you know, it's running a restaurant is a tough thing. And, you know, running your family's restaurant is a whole other bag as well. And so there was, you know, some uphill battles with what we were trying to do and create something a little bit different. It was very much a neighborhood classic restaurant when we came back and took over. And we were just trying to give it a little bit of an identity and some character and have it stand out from other sushi restaurants and try to contribute to the growing Boston food community and culture. So yeah, it's been a good journey.
That's so awesome. Zenyatta, why don't you unmute and ask your question?
Hello, thank you very much for the opportunity. I wanted to ask a question on some ideas for sushi recipes that have no raw fish inside, because it's not always possible to eat raw fish. Say, for example, you have a guest that is expecting. So what are some good combination of rolls and nigiris, but without the raw part? I know talking sushi most of the time is raw fish, but as I've said, it's not always the case. It's not always possible to eat raw food. So what are some good combinations of rolls and nigiris and maybe cones? I don't know. Just an advice to some good recipes.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's all kinds of stuff that doesn't contain any raw fish, or, you know, in some cases doesn't contain any seafood at all. So like we were saying before, like tons of veggie rolls are an option. Lots of things like a shrimp tempura roll would be a great option. That would be cooked. I like to make a dragon roll that is shrimp tempura and cucumber on the inside with avocado on top and some eel sauce. So you can get pretty fun with them, all different kinds of flavor combinations. Tamago, like egg omelet, is another one that's really good. And then most eel that you'll find in sushi restaurants, the unagi, like barbecue eel, is all cooked. So that's another great option. So like an eel avocado roll. Obviously, you know, you want to check if you're out ordering that at a restaurant just to make sure. But in most cases, that's gonna be cooked. Yeah, so there's a lot of things out there.
Yeah, you know, I just wanted to add that everyone's perception, conception of what sushi is raw fish, but really, again, it's about the rice. That's what makes sushi sushi. It's the vinegared seasoned rice. So anything that has that is considered as sushi. And I would just sort of recommend looking at what you like and what you have available to eat, vegetables or non-vegetables. And, going from the things, they don't even have to be sushi related, but like, for example, if it's like mac and cheese, that's a good combination. Let me try that in a roll. I mean, not saying do that, but whatever combinations from whatever other sort of cuisines that you enjoy, you can use those ideas and bring those together and make a roll or something. And really should just be combinations that you think you'd enjoy, or your friends or people that you're making sushi for. It can really be anything. So I'd say just be creative and just have fun with it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your question. I've got a question for Jacqueline. Can you tell us a little bit about what people can expect on your Instagram page?
Yeah. So my Instagram is at Crafty Cookbook. And it's basically just a spot where I share my home cooking and as well as recipes for you to make the same things. So it's about 50% homemade sushi and about 50% all different kinds of other stuff. A lot of just like dinner ideas, some like sweet recipes and things like that. So yeah, my main posts are all that kind of stuff. If you go into my story archives, I have video walkthroughs of how to do a bunch of just different basic sushi stuff, like how to, roll rolls and slice fish and things like that. And then I try to share like a little bit more of the behind the scenes kind of stuff in my stories day to day. And, Instagram is obviously such a highlight reel. So I like to try to show, behind the scenes and failures and things like that. It's not always just these pretty pictures you see in the final product. And I'm actually working on putting together a website right now to try to make all of my guides just a lot more accessible to people. I know everyone doesn't have Instagram, and Instagram obviously isn't the best format for sharing that information. So hopefully when the website is done in a few months or so, I'll be able to launch it. And you can pretty much go there and run through guides on all the different sushi basics. And then it'll have all my recipes on there as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Prestigious, can you unmute?
Hello everybody. I'd like to ask a question considering using something else than fish in sushi, like fresh fruit, like a brunch kind of sushi. Is that possible? And if yes, how do you prepare your rice in order for it to be a great combination with fruit?
Yeah, so I don't know, Seizi, if you've done any fruit sushi. I have not personally, but that's definitely a pretty common ingredient that you can see in sushi these days. I know I see mango and strawberry somewhat commonly. I don't think that you really need to do anything different to your rice than what you would for regular sushi. I think you can probably prepare pretty normal sushi rice and then, utilize those ingredients just like you would with fish.
Yeah, I think it's balancing flavors. So the thing about sushi rice is that in order to make it safe for consumption, you acidify it. And so it's going to have some acid to it. So you want to think about the combination or whatever fruits that you're putting in. If it's something that's highly acidic, then whatever you're making is going to be pretty sharp, right? And then there's the soy sauce that adds the salt. So, that's kind of why sushi is such a simple thing. You have your protein or vegetable, you have the acidity with the rice and starch, and then you have the soy sauce for the sodium component. So if you think along those lines about what combinations could work, a lot of it is just testing it, maybe combining fruits so that you have different flavors happening along with the rice. And then it doesn't have to necessarily be soy sauce. It could be something else. But having a dipping sauce that will balance out all of the different flavors with a little bit of sodium, or you can even mess around with maybe adding, marinating or pickling fruits and doing something with that. So that's just an idea.
That's great. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you for your question. Now, I've got a question in the comments from Just Sly for Seizi. Seizi, thank you for providing our most special lockdown special occasion meals in the last 2 years. Can you place Cafe Sushi's style and canon into a larger cultural context? Does Cafe Sushi focus on keywords I can look up and learn about?
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate all the support. Great question. I think what we try to do is try to be unique and speak to things that we care about in terms of culinarily, and also try to really respect the tradition of Japanese cuisine and sushi, especially, of course, with something something for the contemporary guest and eater. So, oftentimes our nigiri or rolls have toppings or flavorings that are either traditionally Japanese or not, just to be fun. We just, really respect craft in general. So things that we can do in-house as much as possible, especially toppings like, for example, we do a poblano miso that we use to top nigiri with, and it works fairly well. Things like that. So, I think we're just riding the wave of what Nobu really introduced with his style of sushi and doing little toppings and kind of trying to take it to what we feel is signature to us and what speaks to us. So I contemporary sushi, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure how to sort of coin a phrase to it or label it, but something along the lines of that, maybe. Hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you. And if us, we are talking all things sushi. So if you have a question, please raise your hand, hit that button that has a little hand on it, and you'll be invited to the stage to ask your questions. Now, if you're a little too shy, you can drop a question in the comments, and hopefully we'll be able to get to it. All right. So I have another question from the comments while I'm waiting for some folks to accept their invite to the stage from Cat Gone Wild. What has been your favorite new/experimental roll you created during lockdown?
Well, we did this entirely different Super Bowl Sunday platter, all rolls, and typically Super Bowl Sunday is not really the busiest time for us, so we decided to have some fun with it, and we introduced 5 or 6 completely different rolls, which may sound kind of whack, like the nacho monkey and buffalo roll, but it was really fun. You want to have some junky Super Bowl food on Super Bowl Sundays, so we sort of rolled with that, and we were kind of excited for it. It was sort of a time that we could really go outside the box and do some things that were seemingly lowbrow but flavorful and fun. We even used like a barbecue sauce, and we put pickle inside a roll, and it sounds kind of gross and disgusting, but it was really kind of tasty. So for reference, if you want to check out our recent Super Bowl Sunday menu and check out the rolls on that, those are all new. Those are complete B-side one-offs that I don't know if we're going to replicate again, maybe, if people really enjoyed them. But yeah, that was pretty fun.
Jacqueline, do you have any lockdown experimental sushi rolls you've been working on?
Yeah, so pretty much my favorite thing about making sushi at home is just getting to experiment and try out all different kinds of ideas. That's just my favorite part, is the creativity. And so I just kind of keep a note in my phone of ideas, and whenever I think of anything or I see something that inspires me, I just throw it onto my idea list. So, things like ingredients or ideas for, a whole roll or something like that. And so there's really been a ton. And if you go on my Instagram and scroll, you'll see them all. And I always put the descriptions in there. And then for most of them, the recipe is also up in my story archives. I guess one of my favorites recently is I called it the Umami Tsunami roll. That's another like fun thing about doing it, just like getting to come up with stupid, silly names for them. But it was a shrimp tempura roll with tuna, like a huge serving of tuna over top, and then yakiniku sauce, which is like Japanese barbecue sauce on top, and some green onion. And it was so delicious. And so that's one of my favorites. It's one of my husband's favorites. He requests that one pretty frequently. But my favorite is always just kind of like the next one I get to make and try out.
Fantastic. I have another question from the comments. Proper technique for cutting the roll? That question's from Jay Haight.
It's sharp knife, just make sure you have a sharp knife. It depending on how many pieces you want to cut the roll, like start with cutting the middle of the roll so that you can half it, and then put that together so that you can then either cut it into 6 pieces, or if you want to do 8 pieces, that might be easier, where you cut those halves into halves and then cut those quarters into another half. And really, one of the big things, and this is for anyone who just starts learning how to use a knife, is, the best thing to do is think about using the knife, think about like half circles, arcs, rather than sawing. That way you're really allowing the knife to work for you instead of having to work at using the knife. So that's one of the tricks, and it takes some practice, but I'm sure if you practice, you can get it.
I know we've touched on this a little bit, but can you elaborate on some more must-have tools and or ingredients for the home cook?
Yeah, so you really don't need very much to get started. So like what Seizi was saying, you need a sharp knife. So that's the big one. You need a sharp knife, and it needs to be like a relatively long knife, like a chef's knife. It doesn't need to be expensive. So like if you don't have a good sharp knife, you can just go on Amazon and, buy a cheap knife that comes with a chef's knife that comes with a sheath, and just keep it sharp. Only use it for sushi, and it'll stay sharp for a really long time. You can invest in a knife sharpening kit or something like that. As you get further into it. So a sharp knife, that's the biggest one. A rolling mat if you're planning on making rolls, and you want the cling wrap to wrap that with to make it nonstick. And then really the only other thing you need is a non-metallic mixing bowl for making your sushi rice. So you don't necessarily need the classic wooden, bowl to mix your sushi rice. But I have read, though I have not personally experienced this, that it's generally not a good idea to mix it in a metal bowl because the vinegar can react with the metal and cause some off taste to the rice. So I would just recommend buying a set of large plastic mixing bowls if you don't already have them. And that's pretty much it. So really the only super specialized equipment that you need is the rolling mat.
Excellent. I hope people will start making more sushi at home if they aren't already. But going off of that, what sushi would you recommend to someone who has never tried sushi before?
Start out slow. Get some vegetable rolls. The cucumber roll is very classic. Everyone loves avocado. And then if you're up for trying some raw tuna, like the tekamaki tuna roll, salmon roll, just go at a good pace at whatever you're comfortable with. Rolls always seem to be easier, and then going to nigiri, or if you want to just jump right into the raw fish, you can go with the sashimi. But tuna just seems to be a good intro, or even whitefish, really, because it's nuanced, it's lighter, it's pretty traditional. So, but yeah, it just seems like vegetable rolls seem to be a good step into eating and trying sushi.
Thank you. We've got Kat on the stage now. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, thanks. I'm not sure if I missed out because I didn't join right away, but I've been trying to make sushi at home a couple of times, and then I wanted to ask if you have any like special tips or best practices when it comes to making the rice itself.
Yeah, so I do have a recipe for how I make my rice. So you can find that if you go to my Instagram page. It's one of the story archives, or I'm happy to just drop it in a comment here on this chat. I can do that when we get off. Getting your rice texture right is really critical to all the other steps in the process, because what I see a lot with people when they're trying to make it is their rice texture is off, and then they're having trouble rolling the roll, they're having trouble forming nigiri. So that's a really big one. My recipe for it is like pretty straightforward. So I don't really think I'm gonna really shine too much light on it by talking through it right now. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry if that's not too helpful.
Awesome. No, that's great. Yeah, I'll definitely check out your Instagram. You're Jacqueline Schell, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add that I think keep it simple, at the start. And if you get more and more into it, dig deeper. But yeah, I would see if you can just get already like bottled sushi vinegar and just add that to your rice and just keep it simple to start.
Thank you for your question. Uranium, can you unmute yourself and ask a question?
Hey, I just honestly wanted to ask, I just kind of saw this talk. My girlfriend, like I love sushi, but my girlfriend hates sushi, and I've ordered so many types of sushi, and she always like doesn't really want, I don't know, like I want to find something, I want to make her something that she actually likes, that sushi. Do you guys have any like something for maybe people that don't really like sushi?
So that's a great question. I guess it kind of depends on what they don't like about it. So if they're worried about eating the raw fish, obviously you can, try to go with rolls that don't have raw fish. I know for some people, they don't like the seaweed. Some Americans, like that's just kind of a foreign concept to them. And that part like kind of freaks them out a little bit. So I would say like a nigiri sushi that, doesn't have any seaweed on it, maybe with a cooked topping, or, a topping that's something that they enjoy. That's really just, flavored rice and some other thing that they like probably. So like that would be a great place to start, I think.
Cool, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Dehish, can you unmute and ask your question?
Yeah. Hello guys. Nowadays these recipes are getting viral on internet that they have intercultural ingredients, and they have ingredients from multiple cuisines. So do you guys have any like favorite sushi recipes that are from different cultures and have different cultures ingredients in them?
I mean, I'm definitely all for it. I don't necessarily have a go-to sort of thing that I look at. I mean, I know if you look at some of these chefs like Morimoto, he definitely dabbles with a whole bunch of different cuisines, whether it's Chinese or Indian or South American. And he's a great chef and very well established. So, his flavors definitely work, but you can apply any of those things really to sushi. Again, it's all about, the rice, and you can add anything to it and roll anything up in the seaweed and the rice. So I think just think about the things that you enjoy, and try them out.
Yeah, I can't think of like a perfect example right now, but I will say I totally agree with you that fusion foods are my favorite foods, honestly. And I think that bringing different cultures together, you can just get such awesome results. And so I'm really happy to see that sushi is kind of evolving down that route, like most foods do. One that I'm excited to make soon that I have not made yet, that I have an idea for, is I'm really into smoking meats. So I'm from the Midwest, and the barbecue culture is pretty big, and so that's what I grew up with. And so as soon as I had the space for it, I bought a meat smoker, and I love to do that. And one of the trends right now is smoking cream cheese, where you could do it like a barbecue rub on it, and then you smoke it, and it's delicious. And so I have an idea. I made some smoked cream cheese when I was smoking some stuff last week, and I want to do a sushi roll that I think I'm going to call the Smokehouse Roll. That'll be my smoked cream cheese with spicy tuna and some crispy fried onions. So I haven't made it yet, but I'm excited to make it soon.
Thanks for answering. Yeah.
Thank you for your question. Hackboy, can you unmute yourself?
I love sushi.
All right, I'm going to pull a question from the comments. This one's for Seizi. How do you differentiate your sushi from other restaurants / competitors?
That's a great question. You know, we do the best, of course, to make sure that our quality is great. And again, we just try to bring a unique character to our food by adding toppings and garnishes and things that we believe will enhance the flavor of the fish and the experience, and things that we craft in-house and make the sauces or toppings and things like that. And just the combination of rolls and things of that nature, really. We're only open for takeout, but before, you know, we did an omakase, a tasting menu, and so we tried to bring something a little bit different to the table with that as well, and offer some sort of unique preparation as an appetizer or an intermezzo type of thing. So, you know, again, it's about trying to be a little bit creative and have a unique voice that we believe in and that, you know, we feel will differentiate us from everyone else.
Excellent. And that question was from Philorine. Apex, can you unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yeah, no worries. I've never made sushi myself, but one of my biggest concerns is how to source quality raw fish, because, you know, it's just something a little bit complicated for somebody who's never worked or dealt with it. And I was wondering if you have any tips on how to source a quality raw fish, or maybe something to look for in a fish. But I would really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks. We did touch on this a little bit earlier in the chat, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but I will say one of the easiest routes is if you can find an Asian grocery store, especially if you can find a Japanese grocery store, that's gonna be where you're gonna find some really high quality fish that is safe to eat raw. So that's the easiest option. There's also online fish markets that will overnight ship you raw sushi grade fish. That's great. The only concern there is like those can get kind of pricey since they are overnight shipping that frozen package. The shipping costs can be pretty pricey. And then Seizi was pointing out earlier, you can also try to talk to a local sushi restaurant and see where they're sourcing their fish from to get some ideas.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your question. DJ Lil Thunder, can you unmute yourself?
Hi, I was just wondering what I guess like is it expensive to make like a sushi meal at home? I guess like any more than it would be like going to like a restaurant?
That is a great question. So obviously your startup costs are going to be like a little bit higher. So you're going to want to, stock up on some sauces and, buy like a big pack of nori and things like that. So getting off the ground is like a little bit more expensive. But for each batch, it's much, much cheaper than eating out. Because sushi is a very time consuming thing to make, and that translates into its cost at a restaurant. And so the fish is expensive, but really like that labor cost is what really drives up the price of sushi in a lot of restaurants. So if you're making it at home, typically for me, for myself and my husband. It costs me usually around $20 to $30 in ingredients each time I make it at home, as opposed to near us. Like if we go out for sushi, we're usually spending at least $75 for the two of us. So that was one of the reasons I actually started making it at home, was like I wanted to eat sushi more, and it was expensive. So much cheaper option to make it at home.
Oh, thank you so much. And then, like, I guess, what do you guys use to like roll them with? Are those little rolling mats expensive at all?
They are super, super cheap. You can find them, like if you can find like a Japanese grocery store, that's just the best bet for getting all of your supplies. They're going to be like $2. I think even on Amazon, they're only like $3 or $4. So that's super cheap to get started.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for your question. Shrek, can you unmute yourself?
Can you make catfish sushi?
Absolutely. You can put anything that in sushi that you want. I don't know if eating catfish raw, I'm not sure if that's safe. So you definitely want to look into that. But cooked catfish, absolutely.
Because like,
right, Jacqueline,
I
absolutely
live
correct.
on a river, and there's like a bunch of catfish that I catch like every day, and yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. I agree with Jacqueline. Like you can make anything out of sushi. The thing about using freshwater fish is that it is prone to have parasites, and so what you need to do is really freeze it. And if you have a conventional freezer, you really need to freeze it for like a week at least to make sure that the parasites are killed. And or you could just really cook it and then use that to make sushi. So that's, one of the things that you have to be careful of in terms of picking your ingredients, is understanding what you're using, if it's safe to eat raw, and if not, how can you prepare it?
All right, cool. Yeah. I like beans.
Thank you for your question. Now we only have just a few more minutes left of the talk, and then we've got to let our guests go. So make sure you get any last comments in. I see a few comments here on the thread. One is for Seizi. Can you give some idea for the rice and rice vinegar ratio? Do you add sugar, salt, mirin, sake, or another combination?
That's a great question. It can be very simple. It can be basically rice vinegar, sugar, and salt, and that's really what you're trying to find. And it depends on your taste, how sweet or how salty you like it. You can make it more savory by adding kombu, which is the giant kelp, to it. You can make it more fruity or more citric acid-like with some, lemon or lime juice, other citruses like oranges and such like that. But basically, it's a combination of rice vinegar, salt, and sugar. In terms of just ratios, definitely more sugar than salt, and it's just the taste. Offhand, I don't know, like try 5-1 sugar to salt, maybe 4-1 to start, and just taste it. But yeah, it's relatively simple. It can be simple, and then you can make it a little bit more complex to how you enjoy it.
That question was from Prudent Rush. Thank you for your question. We have another question from Philorine. Jacqueline, how did you get started on your sushi journey and eventually become a homemade sushi expert? What interested you and kept you going?
Hey, yeah, thanks for the question. So yeah, I was just a really avid home cook. I mean, I still am. I absolutely love to cook. It's my favorite thing to do. And sushi was my favorite food. And so I was too intimidated to make sushi at home, like I think most people are. And I kind of questioned that. And I was like, well, why am I so afraid of this? I had seen like sushi grade fish at the Japanese grocery store that I went to anyway. And so I thought, hey, I'm just like going to give this a try. Worst case, it's a disaster and I never do it again. And the first time I made it, my husband and I, we were just like blown away at how good the fish was that we had gotten from the Japanese grocery store, and just like how delicious the homemade sushi came out. And again, like I was saying previously, like how much less expensive it was. And so after my first batch, I was just fully hooked. And so I pretty much started making sushi once a week, every weekend. And I've slowed down on that pace a little bit now. But it was just so much fun. And yeah, it's a project meal. I would classify it as a project meal where it's going to take you some time. So it's not something I'm making on a Tuesday night. Typically, I'm setting aside a couple hours to do it. And it's kind of like a craft project, which is like kind of the reason I named my Instagram Crafty Cookbook, because it is kind of like a craft project. And so it's a nice creative outlet to kind of calm down and just create for a little while.
Excellent. Thank you. I've got a question here from Apex Pinnacle. Favorite dipping sauce? Soy sauce, wasabi mayo, eel sauce, any others?
I'll definitely add ponzu to that list. I absolutely love ponzu. It's one of my favorite dipping sauces. Yeah, and I think he listed most of the other big ones.
Excellent. I've got go for it.
No, I was just gonna say, like, some things in terms of if you can keep it simple with just, salt and olive oil. You almost treat it like a salad too sometimes, especially with nigiri, and a little bit of lemon. If you want to go simple.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do is to take a salmon nigiri and do like a really light brushing of a lemon-infused olive oil. So infused oils are a really awesome way to add some different flavoring to your sushi fish. What I would typically do is brush that on top of the fish and not necessarily use it as a dip, because you really just want a small quantity.
Excellent. I've got another question here from Prestigious Juice. What combinations have you tried that would be a no-no in sushi?
Not sure yet, I guess. I haven't really thought about it. Maybe, I'm not sure. Jacqueline?
Yeah, that's a tough one. There's definitely been a few rolls that I've made that I was like, no, this one's not a winner, and I don't post the recipe for those. But it's pretty rare that happens. I feel like usually it just kind of comes together pretty well. I will say, like, I think that if I try to experiment into the fruit ingredient sushi, which I have not dove into that yet, and I do want to do that at some point, I think I anticipate having more failures as I try to do that, because I think that some of those kinds of ingredients, like what Seizi was saying, is they're a little bit more difficult to balance out. So I think that that'll probably take a little more trial and error.
Okay, last speed round questions. I've got a question from Stop Flimsy. What are the best veggies for sushi? My favorite is carrots, but what else is good?
Really, anything that you like, pick a veggie. I think they all can really work. They're, even the bitter ones, like broccoli rabe and stuff like that, can really work nicely. As long as you like it, I think it's going to work.
Excellent. And last question from Independent Coder: nigiri or roll? Nigiri or roll? And what is your drink of choice with sushi?
So I will say both, which I know is a cop-out. I would say nigiri are my favorite. I absolutely love nigiri. They are, especially like flavored nigiri, absolutely my favorite. However, it's so much more fun to work in all different kinds of variety with rolls, that they're just super awesome too. And drink of choice for me is definitely Sapporo and sake, sometimes combined together as a sake bomb. Or a green tea. It depends on, how we're feeling for the evening.
I think that's great. I agree with Jacqueline. I think it depends on where you're eating, in terms of if it's a spot that's fun and they do a lot of creative rolls, then go for rolls. If you're going to go to a high-end omakase type of counter, then nigiri for sure. A nice Asahi draft, on tap is always great. Sake to start with a little sashimi, and sometimes some red wine. wine can work. So
Excellent. All right, Jacqueline and Seizi, where can folks find you if they want to ask further questions?
Yeah, so always feel free to reach out to me, message me on Reddit here on this account, or message me on Instagram on Crafty Cookbook. Please, if you're interested in making sushi, come join us over at r/sushi. I'm on that sub every day. It's awesome, and we're always kind of having these kinds of conversations. So definitely come check it out over there.
yeah, you can email me at cafe_sushi@yahoo.com, or go to our website at cafesushicambridge.com, and you can go to our Hello at Cafe Sushi account as well and ask a question there, or just email us. We'd be happy to hear from you.
Excellent. And again, I am Justine from the podcast Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes. You can find us anywhere you find podcasts and podappetitpodcast.com. We have a new episode just released today. This concludes our sushi talk. Thank you to the folks at Reddit and our r/food moderators for having all of us here. It was very awesome. Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you, Seizi.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you all. Bye. Thanks for listening to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
We'd love to hear from you, so find us on Twitter and Instagram at pod_appétit.
And on Facebook at Pod Appétit Podcast.
You can also email us at podappetitpodcast@gmail.com and find all of our episodes on our website, podappetitpodcast.com.
Amy with a Y.
And I'm Amy with an I.
And we're the hosts of Secular Soup, where each week we offer up a bowl of real talk about atheism, feminism, politics, parenting, and whatever else we want to talk about because it's our podcast.
Just listen to what these random dudes are saying about our show.
This is what would happen if Daria and Jane grew up and started a podcast.
So if you like extremely foul-mouthed ladies with opinions, this is the podcast for you.
Grab a bowl and taste the magic. Slurp even this.